So right now I'm sending 1,000. I send out 1,000 direct mail marketing a month. That's just kind of been where I'm at right now, and to keep consistent with that number. And that number has worked out for me so far, being consistently just sending out 1,000 letters.
Matt, so excited to have you here with us today. I'd love for you to introduce yourself to our community and tell us where you are located.
All right, my name is Matt Beharrysingh, and I'm located in the upstate South Carolina area, mainly Spartanburg.
Wow, there are a ton of I know there are a lot of people from North Carolina on here because I feel like everyone I talk to is now. How far away is that from Raleigh?
I'm in South Carolina, but I'm about 5 hours from Raleigh.
Okay. The Carolinas are hot, hot, hot with all you real
Oh
estate
yeah,
investors, I
oh
feel
yeah.
like.
Everyone's moving down here.
Well, I hear it's amazing. We have Josh, our VP in North Carolina, in Raleigh, and he's always like, "The Carolinas are the best. You guys need to move over here." And I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
saying that he's wrong.
We got a little bit of everything here. The mountains aren't too far away. I'm a few hours from the beach. A few major cities around me: Atlanta, Charlotte. So it's a nice little area.
I love it. Okay, so let's dive in here. I know you had gone some deals with DealMachine, but I'd love to hear how you got into real estate investing and kind of your journey to where you are now with it.
Man, now that's a long story right there, but
Yeah.
I'll condense it a little bit. I guess my journey probably started a few years back now, and I had my first child, well, my only child, I should say, and I really was just thinking about what I wanted to do with my future, and I didn't really want to be having to get up and go to work every single day and just kind of get caught up in that rat race. And I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, just like everybody else out there, and it really got me motivated to start looking at different avenues of what to do with my money and things like that. And at the time, I was an electrician, and I didn't make a ton of money. I made decent money, but definitely not enough to like jump into fixing and flipping or buying holes or something like that. And I went to a fortune builder seminar, and I learned about wholesaling there. And after that, man, I just dived into YouTube University, discovered people like Max Maxwell, Jerry Norton, things like that, and I just started watching their videos, absorbing all the information, listening to every single podcast that I could find about wholesaling and real estate in general. And yeah, I kind of got to that point where I was like, I'm gonna save up some money and I'm gonna quit my job and I'm gonna just dive headfirst into this. And in 2020, that's what happened. And I kind of got cut short in my savings plan, but it was fine because like the whole pandemic started and whatnot. But I was totally fine with that. And I just when I got laid off, I went head first.
Oh my gosh. So tell me, to 2020, so it's been 2 years. What does your business look like now?
So currently, I just purchased my first fix and flip out in the Simpsonville area, and I'm going through a whole learning curve with that right now. I mean, that's just a whole different animal compared to wholesaling. Now I'm dealing with contractors and subcontractors and looking at, this construction project and trying to piece it all together in my head. And so it's definitely been a journey.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I just talked to another gentleman who's doing their first fix and flip and was telling me the same thing. It is a
Oh yeah.
lot of learning experiences.
Mm-hmm. And it was the same thing
And
with
it's a whole
wholesaling
different
as well.
beast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, and I'd love to go into that. I know you've done some deals with Deal Machine. I'd love for you to talk about kind of your journey with us too, getting into real estate investing.
So, I first heard about DealMachine watching YouTube, and when I quit my job, when I got laid off from my job, I knew that I was going to use DealMachine. I didn't really have a lot of money. I didn't have enough money to do marketing. Um, I didn't really want to do the cold calling thing because I heard so many scary stories about, the do not call list and the litigator list, and I really didn't want to get wrapped up in any of that. So I actually hand wrote letters. I hand wrote 25 letters a day, 5 days a week after the first 3 weeks, I got my first deal. And I was driving and I paid for Deal Machine. I got the cheapest one. I think it was like $50 a month or something like that. whatever that subscription was. And I drove around in my Spartanburg area, and then I hand wrote letters, 25 letters a day, for probably about 7 weeks until my first deal closed. And I got my first deal under contract after the first 3 weeks of writing
Wow.
letters.
So tell me how that phone call went. I'm guessing they called you from the letter, and how did that go?
Yeah. It's probably when I was handwriting letters, that was the best phone calls that I ever got, because I don't know, people just don't really receive handwritten letters. It's actually written by my hand. I mean, there was mistakes on the paper. I would just scratch it out like it was a really somebody came behind and wrote this letter. And some of the best responses, but it was a duplex out in the Inman area of South Carolina, and it's a growing area. People are building out there and whatnot. But yeah, after I got it under contract, I think I got it under contract for. Do you want me to talk about numbers or?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, yeah. So I got it under contract for 30,000, and it one half was livable, and the owner was actually living in one half, and the other side was not livable at all. It needed like a full
Okay.
makeover. And so I got under contract for 30,000, and trying to find the buyer after that, an end buyer, was just a whole another challenge in itself. I thought the challenge was getting it under contract. The real work really begins trying to disposition the property. And I started reaching out to my community. I reached out to some other investors to try to help me out with dispositioning. And eventually I did find a buyer off of Facebook Marketplace that came in and purchased it for 35,000. So I made $5,000. And when I got that check in my hand, I never hand wrote a letter again.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So what did you end up reinvesting in then for
Oh,
your outreach?
I reinvested everything again. So um, I haven't I haven't taken I didn't take any money off of the business like that first year or so. And but I went back and I started driving again, and I decided to I used your guys' postcards, and I had done some postcard direct mail before, and the response in my area is kind of 50-50. I in my area I felt like I got more angry responses than I did positive ones. So I did switch up and I went to like a yellow letters, and at the time you guys weren't offering yellow letters, and I'm not sure if you guys do now, but I know you guys have a handwritten letter. Um,
Yes, we have the handwritten letter.
hmm And but yeah, I use those yellow letters, a little invitation envelope, red ink, and ever since then, I just kind of just been getting some deals, and I think my biggest month I had was about $25,000, and it's been doing pretty good.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Hmm.
That's a pretty good chunk of change for a month of work.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Congratulations on doing that. Like you fully dove in
Hmm.
and just committed to yourself, your why, and your business. And I love you have a great whiteboard behind you. I'm sure that has a whole bunch of other
Oh,
breakdowns of
I
things.
have another one here. I still have my check stub because I went to pick up an actual check stub from the attorney's office for my first deal, hanging up on my wall. Just to always remind me of where I came from and then where I'm trying to go.
I love that. So tell me where you're trying to go. So you're starting this flip. Are you wanting to get more into different types of investing then? What does this next like year kind of look like?
This year, I'm really right. This year, I want to flip. Um, Excuse me one second. My computer's doing something crazy. Sorry. Um,
You're totally fine.
but yeah, so this year I would like to at least do 3 or 4 flips this year, and kind of just learning that strategy, what it takes, and just makes me a better wholesaler as well to actually have been through that process of fixing and flipping, and then when I'm going back and presenting deals to my buyers, I'll have a little bit of understanding of what they're looking at, what their costs could be, and just have a better evaluation. I think it's just going to make me a better all around wholesaler and investor. And then after I build up a little bit more capital with that, I'm definitely going to get into the buy and holds, and start looking at single families, even into, multifamilies as far as like quadruplexes on down, and get a whole bunch of those together. And I'm not really sure. I mean, I do want to get into investment, commercial property and different things like that later on in the future. But, I think right now this year I'm just going to focus on getting a few fix and flips underneath my belt, and see where I end at the end of the year, and then come up with another strategy starting 2023.
Yeah, no, I love that. And so I have a couple of questions. So when you go driving for dollars, do you have a specific goal in mind of how many properties you want to be getting in? Like, how do you keep that that pipeline keep going
Hmm.
and full?
So yeah, so right now I'm sending 1,000. I send out 1,000 direct mail marketing a month. That's just kind of been where I'm at right now, and to keep consistent with that number. And that number has worked out for me so far, being consistently just sending out 1,000 letters. I do want to scale that um, eventually, but right now it's what I could handle, because I'm still just a one man show. I still do all my own driving. Um, I
Wow.
yeah, acquisition, I disposition, and I'm taking on this fix and flip. So once I get a little bit more situated, a little bit more understanding, I'm going to start looking to possibly hiring a couple drivers and things like that, and looked at scaling from there.
Yeah, no, that's it. You seem like you're right on the right path of moving everything into, being able to run without you having to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. And I do want to ask you, because I feel like, I mean, flipping's like you said, it's like a whole different ball game
Yes,
than
yes.
wholesaling. What were maybe the first like few things that you would tell someone to like do before they get into flipping, or like be prepared for? What kind of pieces of advice?
Oh
Since
man,
I know you're just now getting into it, but
yeah.
like, can you give like a couple of tips?
Man, for sure, make sure you have some contractors and subcontractors. I think that is probably the biggest lesson that I'm learning right now, and have more than one. I actually, in the beginning of this project, I had a contractor that was all ready to go. He gave me a date. He was ready to start, and then literally 4 or 5 days before we were supposed to start the project, he was having some problems with his license, his general contracting license. And he kept on telling me that, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to start on this day. I'm going to start on this day. Well, the morning of that day, I get a text message. Oh, my license still not good. I can't do it. I don't want to, get fined by the contracting board, or, whatever it is that he reports to in our state. But yeah, so that kind of set me back, because I was expecting to start the project like a week ago, 2 weeks ago. So now I'm kind of back to the drawing board. I'm not really back to the drawing board. I do have another GC that's coming in and taking a look, and I've contacted some subs, and I've gathered some contacts and things like that through Facebook groups and local RIA and things like that. So that's definitely a lesson I learned. Have some subcontractors and some GCs on hand before you get started, and get more than one bid.
And would you say, you said that you went through like Facebook and stuff like that, which would you suggest that as well to everyone else to like try to find them? Because I
Yeah.
feel like some people are probably like, what do I go into the yellow pages of some?
Yeah, yeah. No, find your local. I literally went into Facebook and I just put in real estate investing, and like I searched under groups, and I put Greenville real estate investing because that's my area. Or you can put Spartanburg, or put your local city or whatever it is, real estate investing. After that, see what pops up. Your local RIA is usually a good source. Um, yeah, I would just kind of start out with there. I mean, you should have plenty of options with just that search.
Okay. Awesome. I'm so intrigued to like catch up once your project like is full blown like going forward, because like I said, I get messages from some members and they're just like, "Hey, listen, learn something else new today. We need to talk about it," because
Yeah,
it's like, let people know that this is what's going to happen.
yeah.
Do you have any stories of like really messy deals that you've done that uh maybe would help someone coming into something where you're just like, I don't know what's happening.
Get to the closing table or did not get to the closing table?
To get to the closing table.
Get to the closing table. I don't think I've had like
anything crazy.
Yeah, I don't think I've had anything crazy. I mean, nothing that I've heard before where other people are like, oh, you know, somebody tried to back out at the last minute or something like that. I mean, I've had people, and I had one seller, he he questioned me on my contract for about an hour on my paperwork. I mean, we sat out there and I mean, he really scrutinized that thing. But by that time, sorry about that. By that time, he had by that time I had already done, you know, quite a few deals, so I was quite comfortable explaining my paperwork. But yeah, I mean, he sat there for about an hour with me, just going through and fine tooth combing my paperwork, and I did actually get it signed, and you know, I performed what I said. I did what I said I was going to do, and I performed in the timeline I said I was going to perform in, and he was happy, and yeah, we got the deal closed.
That takes a lot of patience. I feel like when you have the job takes a lot of patience.
Yeah.
Because so many things could come up and happen, and
There's so many different types of personalities you deal with on a daily basis. So you just never know what you're gonna get.
Well, I am glad that you haven't had anything too crazy then. I don't feel bad for not having one, because I was like, oh, this is great. Like, hey guys, listen, there's not always, because sometimes you hear those like horror stories, and I feel like that helps people stay in their analysis paralysis. Because it's like, well, I don't want that to happen to me.
Well, I mean, I got some horror stories, but they did not go to the closing table. So those are different ones that you know, I've had a seller threaten to sue me one time over after I got it under contract, and I realized I had it under contract too high, and he didn't want to negotiate, so I wanted to back out, but he was trying to hold me to go into the closing table, but I had everything protected in my paperwork. I had myself protected as far as allowing me to back out, and but yeah, he wanted to threaten to sue me, but he never really followed through it, and he ended up selling the house like I think 6 months later. I think I popped up and I seen he sold it to another investor for about the same amount of money that I was offering him.
Okay.
Yeah, it happens.
Got people, you meet so many different people.
Yep.
I love it. Well, I really appreciate you coming on here and talking to us, and I'd love to have you back to talk through the flip.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to just catch up and be like, hey, how's the flip going? And you can be like, well, listen, I learned this and this. Not saying, because I feel like you know that things are going to pop up. Like, I mean, how many HGTV shows do we have to watch to know that nothing goes to plan? Oh, yeah. But I'm excited I'd love to even see pictures before and after of your flip that you're doing.
I got some pictures from before and after, and then I'm planning on taking some video before they get too much into it. Some demo work's been done, but I do plan on taking a video. I should have done it earlier, but I was just so wrapped up in everything else. And another tip I would give too is materials. Get your materials, windows, things like that. Some of these materials are taking 4 to 6 weeks, and some even 4 to 6 months to come in. So definitely know where you're going to get your materials.
What's taking
windows?
What's taking 4 to 6 months? Oh,
windows are at least in my area, and I heard that from some of my suppliers and speaking with them, it's the same thing going on around the country. Windows are taking a very long time to come in.
Oh, this makes so much sense. I have a flip happening by me, and I wondered why they didn't put a window on one of the walls, because I was like, this looks so dumb. But maybe it's because that there's not a lot of windows.
Yeah, could be.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Thank you so much for coming on here, Matt. I appreciate it.
Thank you.